Angela Gabriel, okay? Deputy District Attorney, Kenosha, okay? Count 1, first degree reckless homicide, use of dangerous weapon. The above named defendant, on or about Tuesday, August 25th, 2020, in the city of Kenosha, Kenosha County, Wisconsin, did recklessly cause the death of Joseph D. Rosenbaum under circumstances which show utter disregard for human life, contrary to section blah. A Class B felony upon a conviction may be sentenced to a term of imprisonment not to exceed 60 years. Okay. And further, invoking the provisions of the section, it's got some sections, number 939, 1B, Wisconsin statute, because the defendant committed the offense while using a dangerous weapon, the maximum term of imprisonment for felony may be increased by not more than 5 years. So that's 65 years, right? Probable cause. Check this out. On August 2020, at 8 p.m., an 8 p.m. curfew had been imposed east of I-94 in Kenosha County due to civil unrest. On August 25th, at approximately 11:45 p.m., a shooting occurred at not Car Source, but it's Rudy's. Anyway, it's not Car Source. Yeah, it's not Car Source. They got the wrong one there. I forgot which one is there, though. Anyway, which is located at northwest corner of 63rd Street and Sheridan Road in the city and county, Wisconsin, state of Wisconsin. A man who was shot at this location was identified as Joseph Rosenbaum. Rosenbaum was transported to a local hospital where a doctor declared him to be deceased on August 26, 2020 at 12:47 a.m. In the course of the investigation, this incident, law enforcement reviewed and shared with your complaint multiple videos that appeared to be recorded on cell phones. The first video, a male who was later identified to be Kyle H. Rittenhouse, hereafter the defendant, is running southwest across the east portion of the car lot. The defendant is a resident of Anchorage, Illinois. The defendant can clearly be seen holding a long gun. Because of the fact that they just said long gun means that he's 17 years old and he has a rifle with a 16-inch barrel. Legal. If it's a rifle with a 14-inch barrel, it's illegal. So, he was in possession of a legal firearm, legally open carry. Not a problem there. Okay, statute, boom. So, we'll continue on. Which was later recovered by law enforcement and identified as Smith & Wesson AR-15 style .223 rifle. The recovered magazine for this rifle holds 30 rounds of ammunition. Following the defendant is Rosenbaum, and trailing behind the defendant and Rosenbaum is the male who later identified as Richard McGinnis, a reporter. The video shows that as they cross the parking lot, Rosenbaum appears to throw an object at the defendant. The object does not hit the defendant, and a second video shows, based on where the object landed, that it was a plastic bag that had something in it, okay? Just not a plastic bag. The plastic bag was used as a launch platform for whatever was in the plastic bag. Because if you throw a plastic bag, it goes whoop, and it just floats around, okay? You can't do that unless you have something in the bag. Rosenbaum appears to be unarmed for the duration of the video. A review of the second video shows that the defendant and Rosenbaum continued to move across the parking lot and approached the front of a black car parked in the lot. A loud bang is heard on the video and a male shouts, "Fuck you." Then Rosenbaum appears to continue to approach the defendant and gets in near proximity to the defendant with 4 more loud bangs are heard. Now, Rosenbaum appears to continue to approach the defendant and gets in near proximity to the defendant when 4 loud bangs are heard. Now, remember, Gabriel said long gun. Remember, Gabriel says appears to continue to approach the defendant and gets in near proximity to the defendant. Remember those two. Okay, I'm going to show you some. Rosenbaum then falls to the ground. Defendant then circles around the black car and approaches Rosenbaum. Rosenbaum remains on the ground. McGinnis also approaches, removes his shirt, and attempts to render aid to Rosenbaum. Defendant appears to get on his cell phone and place a call. Another male approaches, and defendant turns and begins to run away from the scene. And the defendant is running away, and he can be heard saying that on the phone, "I just killed somebody." Detective Creepus interviewed McGinnis, indicated the following. Before the shooting, McGinnis was interviewed in the defendant. The defendant told McGinnis that he was a trained medic. McGinnis stated that McGinnis has handled many ARs, and that the defendant was not handling the weapon very well. McGinnis said that as long as they were walking south, that as they were walking south, another armed male who approached appeared to be in his 30s, joined them and said he was there to protect the defendant. McGinnis stated that before the defendant reached the parking lot and ran across it, the defendant had moved from the middle of Sheridan Road to the sidewalk, and that is when McGinnis saw a male Rosenbaum initially try to engage the defendant. McGinnis stated that as the defendant was walking, Rosenbaum was trying to get closer to the defendant. When Rosenbaum advanced, the defendant did a juke move and started running. McGinnis stated that there were other people that were running very quickly. McGinnis stated that they were moving towards the defendant. McGinnis stated that according to what he saw, the defendant was trying to evade the individuals. McGinnis described the point where the defendant had reached the car. McGinnis described that the defendant had the gun in a low ready position, meaning that he had the gun raised but pointed downwards. The butt of the gun would have been at an angle downwards from the shoulder. McGinnis stated that the defendant brought the gun up. McGinnis stated that he stepped back and he thinks the defendant fired 3 rounds in rapid succession. McGinnis said that the first round went off. He thought it hit the pavement. McGinnis felt something hit his leg and first thought he was wondering whether he had gotten shot. McGinnis was behind and slightly to the right of Rosenbaum in the line of fire when the defendant shot. McGinnis stated that the first round went into the ground and the second shot went off. The defendant actually had the gun aimed at Rosenbaum. McGinnis stated he did not hear the two exchange any words. McGinnis said that the unarmed guy, Rosenbaum, was trying to get the defendant's gun. McGinnis demonstrated by extending both his hands in a quick grabbing motion and did that as a visual on how Rosenbaum tried to reach for the defendant's gun. Detective Creepus indicated that he asked McGinnis if Rosenbaum had his hands on the gun when the defendant shot. McGinnis said he definitely made the motion and that he was trying to grab the barrel of the gun. McGinnis stated that the defendant pulled it away and then raised it. That'll be important. Pulled it away and raised it. That'll be important. McGinnis stated that the defendant pulled it away and then raised it. McGinnis stated at the right, as they came together, the defendant fired. McGinnis stated that Rosenbaum was shot and he leaned towards the defendant. McGinnis stated that after the defendant shot, he ran back towards the hospital towards the middle of the road. McGinnis stated as he turned his attention to Rosenbaum. McGinnis stated that he then heard other shots soon after. Okay, now this is Rittenhouse. Now I want you to think about something here. Think about something. They're all out here demonstrating right up to the point where they're rioting. So they're demonstrators and they're protesters when they're not rioters, okay? Got that. So, a riot was already declared. That means that Rosenbaum and Huber and the other guy. Anyway, I have to go down there and find it. They're not demonstrators. They're not protesters. It's been declared a riot, and therefore they're rioters. So, don't call them protesters after 20 hours, 2000 hours. Okay, 8 o'clock afternoon, evening. Okay? They're rioters. Don't say they're protesters. They're rioters. Got it? They're not demonstrators. They're rioters. Keep your terminology straight. Okay? So these rioters that are out there committing crimes, arson, all this other vandalism, the whole bit. Okay. Now, the reason why is because this dude shot that police officer, has a guy by his shirt attempting to prevent him from entering into a vehicle that's not his own, with kids in it, and he's not supposed to be there. He's left no choice, pretty much. But out of 7 shots, 4 hit. 5, 6, 7, 3 missed. Okay? So, you're all on this police brutality and all this other crap. Well, guess what? Here is a police cadet. And let's look at his performance measure. Okay? His weapon handling skill and his situational awareness. Okay? Let's see how he did. Got it? Kyle H. Rittenhouse, representing himself in the court of law. Okay? Actually, he is himself. He's not representing himself. He's a human being, a flesh and blood, and he's not a corporation. Okay? Got that out of the way. There we go. Now let's continue on. Your Honor, Joseph J. JoJo D. Rosenbaum acquired and maintained a visual proximity on me. Okay. Joseph D. Rosenbaum maneuvered and did physical proximity to the victim, me. All right? Joseph Rosenbaum approached me, and then he confronted me. Mr. Rosenbaum's course of conduct showed a continuity of purpose that caused me to feel intimidated, harassed, threatened, and then terrified that I suffered serious emotional distress. Mr. Rosenbaum intentionally engaged in a course of conduct directed at myself that would cause a reasonable person under the same circumstances to suffer serious emotional distress and fear of bodily injury or death. Mr. Rosenbaum knew or should have known that at least one of the acts that constitute the course of conduct will cause myself, Rittenhouse, to suffer serious emotional distress and place myself in reasonable fear of bodily injury and or death. Mr. Rosenbaum's act caused myself to suffer serious emotional distress and induced fear in myself of bodily injury and possibility of death. Mr. Rosenbaum meets all of the preceding criteria that constitutes violation of Wisconsin Statute 940.32, stalking, a Class I felony. I stopped running, turned around, and pointed the Smith & Wesson Military and Police 15, a long rifle barrel with a barrel length of 16 inches, at Mr. Rosenbaum to threaten him not to advance or continue following me. I did not shoot Mr. Rosenbaum at that time because I was not privileged to intentionally use lethal force, and there were other individuals in the line of sight that would have been in danger downrange. I then broke off the engagement and ran south to some parked cars and turned around to ascertain if Mr. Rosenbaum had resumed chasing me. Mr. Rosenbaum advanced upon my stationary position and attempted to gain possession of my weapon. I intentionally used force against Mr. Rosenbaum to cause great bodily harm, and subsequently the death of Mr. Rosenbaum terminated what I reasonably believe to be an unlawful interference with my person. This is when he shot one into the ground, and then he kept going. I believe that such force was necessary to prevent imminent great bodily harm or death to myself. I was acting in self-defense in accordance with 939.48, Your Honor. I eventually began to egress back to 60th Street when a male in light-colored top ran towards me, swing at me with his right arm, and made contact with me, knocking my hat off. I continued to run northbound. I then tripped and fell on the ground. A male wearing dark-colored top and light-colored pants jumped at me, trying to kick me in the head, and I fired 2 shots in quick succession in his direction and made an effort to miss him. Then I ducked and he missed, and he continued over me. I purposely did not hit him, and he runs away. Okay. Anthony Huber hit me with his skateboard and grabbed my weapon, which was strapped to my body. I had my finger on the trigger, and Mr. Huber pulled the rifle, and it applied more than 4 pounds of pressure, trying to hold onto the weapon, and unintentionally and accidentally fired a round. From my perspective, Mr. Huber basically shot himself with my weapon. After shooting Huber, I moved to a seating position and noticed Gaige Grosskreutz approaching me. Then he freezes, ducks, and takes a step back. I pointed my rifle towards him, but not at him, and didn't fire as Mr. Grosskreutz put his hands in the air holding a handgun in his right hand. Mr. Grosskreutz then moves towards me when I aim my rifle at him and shot 1 time, wounding him in his right arm. Mr. Grosskreutz then runs southbound away from me, ironically screaming for a medic. I then got up and walked northbound. I turned around and faced southbound while walking backwards northbound with my firearm in the ready position, pointed towards people in the roadway. Now, if Rittenhouse was a police officer, actual commissioned police officer, and he went through all that, that's a perfect freaking score, people. That's a perfect score. Rosenbaum, clear as day, total 100% self-defense. But anything past that. Now, why didn't he had it like this, and he could have shot that guy at him, but he fired 2 shots real fast, but he missed it. The guy in the air doing the, bringing a sneaker to an AR-15 fight, okay? Well, 2 rounds. He had plenty of time to aim on the guy, had plenty of time that he could have shot him. You look at that. He could have. But he waited till the guy was up in the air and he shot over here. He purposely missed him. He could have purposely hit him. He purposely missed him. The dude in the white pants. He runs off. That guy better thank Rittenhouse for not shooting his ass dead, of which he could have, and he had the time and the aim. He could have done it. He chose not to. That's a conscious decision on his part. Okay. Next. Here he is, and somebody grabs his rifle. He's hit in the head, okay? And then somebody's grabbing his rifle, and you sit there and look at it, and he's hanging on to his rifle. He squeezes the trigger. It's not that he intended to, it's just that Hubert pulls it. When he pulls it, the gun goes off, all right? Like he said, he shot himself with his rifle. He can't be held liable for that. Hubert had his hand on it trying to disarm him. Okay, that was an accidental shooting. Okay, got that. And then we got the third guy, which, hey, he stopped, backed up, brought his hand. Rittenhouse didn't shoot him. Didn't shoot him until Grosskreutz decided that he was going to shoot his ass, is when he got his arm blown off. It wasn't before that, so the intent was already there, and he displayed his intent, and Rittenhouse had no reason why not to shoot his ass dead, but instead chose to shoot his arm. He may have got his arm fucked up because he's stupid, but he's still alive. If it were other officers, like you people say, like here's this guy holding onto a shirt this far away, and he gets 4 shots into his body, and 3 shots miss him. How in the frick do you do at point blank range? Okay? And compare that to Rittenhouse. Rittenhouse is the shining example of not only self-defense, but if he was in uniform, what a cop would do in that case. Didn't they arrest his ass? Well, remember I told you it was very important that she wrote long rifle? It's very important that she set up in the probable cause the necessary elements to prove stalking and defense. This is a defense letter. The reason why Rittenhouse is even charged, and they make it sound all great, but the reason why he's charged simply comes down to one thing. They said, hey, son, guess what? Yeah, if you don't come with us, bad people are going to come kill you. You better come with us, okay? So he voluntarily went with the police officers. That way they wouldn't get it for false imprisonment, okay? And we're going to file with the court all these charges, but don't worry about it. You won't get convicted. What we're doing is we're making up an excuse to put you into protective custody. That's it. That's it. It don't get better than that. Rittenhouse intentionally chose to kill Rosenbaum because Rosenbaum wouldn't quit. He aimed it at him. He gave him warning. Rosenbaum continued. What can you do? Shoot his ass dead. But going down the street, and then here's all these people saying, get him, get him. He doesn't want to kill those people. So the guy jumps him and he shoots twice. Give him a warning. The guy rolls off and runs away. But Huber comes over and hits him and grabs his rifle. And when he's pulling the rifle away, and Rittenhouse is hanging on to it, by reflex, fired. Okay, that was an accidental shooting because somebody's interfering with his performance. Okay? I'm gonna hang on this rifle, boom, oh shit, it went off. You know, it's a reflex. Couldn't help it. And then we got this other guy, right? Grosskreutz. Anyway, there it is. Choose. You chose wrong. Simple as that. Okay? So, Rittenhouse has 100%, bar none, self-defense, Rosenbaum. Anything past that can't be held, nothing. He chose to let the flying, leaping dude in the tennis shoes or whatever live. He chose to let that guy live. Boom. Anthony Huber was accidental due to interference. And the last guy, well, what are you going to do? Made a bad choice. You can't get that to stick. He's legal to be out there. It's a 16-inch barrel. He's 17 years old. Boom, no problem. Curfew, don't worry about it. They're an employee of the business. They were asked to be there, and thus they have a legitimate reason to be there, and therefore they do not fall under the curfew violation. They're asked there to be by the owner to act as security. They're not in violation of the curfew. Okay? Rittenhouse. 4-0. 4-0, people. That's the way you handle your business. Okay? Rittenhouse, his performance is he took 4 people on and he handled them like a boss. And he's 17-year-old. Okay? Now, you notice the next night, it was nice and peaceful as peaceful can be. Okay? They had 2 of their own shot dead and 1 wounded. That put the fear of God into them, and they, oh, well, they're all peacefully marching now. Now they're protesters. Now they're demonstrators. Fine, no problem. Nobody fucked with them, right? Okay, it's only when it's declared a riot and you still hang on, you still hang out, there's a curfew, and it's declared a riot, you're a rioter, you're not a protester, you're not a demonstrator, you're a rioter, and that's all she wrote. 4-0. 4-0. Now, the United States Marine Corps is looking at him, the Wisconsin and Illinois State Patrols looking at him going, you outperformed cops. He outperformed cops. And yet, we have David Betts or whatever. And he's just here. Anyway, we got charges against him. Those charges is just another way to put him into protective custody so he doesn't get killed. That's all that is. It's the paperwork. They'll just drop the charges later on, not a problem. Just drop the charges like that. See what's happened, people? Do you see what's happened? Yeah, it's not real. Those charges are not real. Oh, they're filed in the court and there they sit. But the DA, at some given point in time, is just going to drop them. Let it blow over a little bit. Okay? That he's not even going to go to trial. He's not going to go to trial. This is just a big ploy to put him into protective custody. That's all it is. Because if it isn't, then that young man has a civil litigation suit for false imprisonment, and people's heads are going to roll. Okay? So, it's a paper tiger. That's all it is. And you guys are sitting there going, ooh, 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 ooh. It's a paper tiger. Got it? Yeah. So don't put any credence in it whatsoever. It's just a way to get him out of there. They say he's in lockup. Good luck finding his ass. No, he's tucked away somewhere in another state. Okay, more or less in the witness protection program of some sorts. Hell, he could be occupying, him and his mom could be occupying a penthouse suite in Trump Tower in New York, for all we know. But one thing we do know for sure, he's not in lockup. And if he is, and it's against his will, boom, he's got a lawsuit from hell. And people's heads are going to roll. And people will be charged with crimes. So, expect the DA just to drop the charges. Okay? This kid's never going to see inside of a courtroom in an actual trial whatsoever. I bet you. That's exactly what happened.